Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Today I'm going to do a product review, and I think it may be a product review that is of special interest to our canners out there. I'm going to talk to you today about ForJars canning lids. You can see that's ForJars, all one word. I'm going to do 3 different videos on different canning lids that are not your normal Ball, Bernardin, Kerr jars, because I think there's a lot of disinformation out there about canning lids, what works, what doesn't work. And since there has been a shortage of canning lids, I'd like to just cut through some of the confusion. And just a quick note, if you like our videos, if you find them at all helpful, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Makes me feel good. Okay, I've got some broth to can, so let's get started. I ordered a box of 50 of the ForJars canning lids, and I'm going to compare them to Ball lids. And when I ordered these, I called the company, because I know people have a lot of questions and I wanted to answer them correctly. This is a Ball lid. If you see this ring around here, this is made out of a material called Plastisol. Now there's more than one kind of Plastisol, and it's used in different products, but this particular Plastisol compound is for high heat usage. So I ordered a box of wide mouth ForJars lids. I ordered from Amazon, and I'm going to tell you they were considerably cheaper than Ball lids. Now I know you see lots of boxes back there. I'll tell you, the only ones I actually ordered and paid for was a box of 50. They sent me the rest free, and I didn't ask for them because I don't. When I'm doing a product review, I do it on things I bought, not things that were given to me for product reviews, with one exception, and I've told you about that. That's a knife. So this ring on the ForJars lid is made out of silicone. And in a perfect example of how a little knowledge can be a bad thing, some folks Googled the melting point of silicone and decided that silicone was not proper for canning because it had such a high melting point. You'll see here I'm checking between the two. You can make an impression with your thumbnail on either one of these, the Plastisol or the silicone. Now let me tell you why the melting point of silicone is not even relevant to our discussion here. Okay, this is me taking a break so I can have the time to explain this to you properly. Out there on the interwebs, if you Google melting point of silicone, you may come up with a figure of 1100 degrees centigrade. And because of that, some folks will say, and have said, that silicone is not a proper compound for canning because it doesn't melt and form a seal with the jar. Now, if you have at some point in your life bought a silicone spatula to use with Teflon pans, that will not melt at canning temperatures. In fact, it won't melt at all. That type of silicone, when it reaches a high enough temperature, will combust. It never melts. But silicone comes in many different forms. In fact, there are silicone inks and silicone oils. And now there are silicone canning lids. And now, back to our movie. The silicone on this lid has been formulated to melt and make a seal at canning temperatures. So this is the Ball lid, and you'll see it fits in this ball ring. And this is the ForJars lid, and you'll see that it fits in this ring. It fits just fine. And you know, you're not going to buy rings. You're going to use the rings that you have. So we've clarified that some lids have a sealant made of Plastisol. Some have lids with a sealant made of silicone. There's a third option here. And to be honest with you, this is the one I use most of the time. This is a Tatler lid. And it has a plastic reusable lid with a rubber reusable gasket. And I don't know how long the gaskets will last. A long time. As long as they never get out of shape and they don't get brittle, you can reuse them. And for that reason, I rarely buy lids. But I bought these lids specifically to do this video because there were so many questions. And I thought people needed some straight information when there's a lid shortage. By the way, the Tatler lids were invented due to the last lid shortage. So I have some broth ready to can here, and I'm not going to do a whole canning video. I'm just going to show you 2 jars, a wide mouth and a regular mouth, so that you can see I use the same procedure in canning with the ForJars lids that I do with the ball lids. And it's a little bit different procedure if you're using the Tatler lids, but not much different. So I'm filling the jar up to a 1-inch headspace. While I'm doing that, let me tell you that when I called the ForJars people, they told me that the box I had bought from Amazon was from an early run of their jars. They've only been in business a few months. And that they would prefer if I would let them send me some different ones that were from a newer run. And I agreed, and oh my goodness, they sent me so many. If you have bought these, you can tell the difference because the newer jars have a little leaf on the BPA-free insignia. And at the end of this video, I'll give you a close-up of that so you can tell the difference. Although I will tell you that I used some from the first batch, the ones that I bought, and they were fine. Okay, you can see that I cleaned the rim with vinegar. I put the lid on finger tight. I'm going to be honest with you, I put it on a little tighter than finger tight because this is just broth and I'm inviting trouble. I want to see if I can cause a problem. Now we're going to do a wide mouth jar, and I don't know about you, somehow if I have a problem it's generally on a wide mouth jar. I don't have a lot of problems, but when I do, it's generally on a wide mouth jar. I just want to mention in passing here, if you find yourself having problems with your jars sealing, an important thing to do is to check your rims. Just run your finger along the rim to make sure there's no cracks. And also to check your rings. You know, the rings tend to hang around our houses for a long time. And no matter how careful you are, they can get out of round and they can get little spots of rust or actually even food embedded in the creases of the ring. So before I put a ring on the jar, I always take my little paper towel with vinegar and wipe around the inside to make sure that anything that's accumulated there comes off. And then I check it for round when I put it on the jar. You can eyeball check it too, but I mean, if you put a ring on the jar and turn it backwards, then it will plop down into place if it's in perfect round. I think this ring is not in perfect round. It just didn't feel right when I put it on. I met resistance when I turned it. So I'm going to get another ring. I'd rather not take a chance on losing a jar to save a ring that is, for all intents and purposes, disposable. So I'm going to clean the inside of this one, and then I'm going to put it on the jar. I turn it backwards until it plops down and seats itself on the sealing rings of the jar, then finger tight and into the canner. I'm going to go ahead and finish and can all these jars. After the canning is done, and I have waited 12 hours. I'll come back and we will finish our product review. So it's the next morning. These jars have sat undisturbed for about 16 hours, and now I'm going to take the rings off. And here is how you test it. Well, first, the lid is concave. It is popped down, and yes, you get a little ping with these. And then you lift it, just holding the lid, not the jar. And this is the one that I over-tightened on purpose. It took a little bit to take it off. And the reason I did that was to see if the lids would buckle. Sometimes when you over-tighten a jar, your lid will buckle. This one did not. The ForJars lids are just a tiny bit thicker than the ball lids or other lids that you buy. And you can see there was no buckling, and these have a good, strong seal. I'm lifting it up, trying to just have my fingers on the lid, and let's give it a little shake. Let's don't be careful with this. We'll rough it up just a little. See, I think sometimes new canners, this is the wide mouth, sometimes I think new canners are so worried about the lids that they treat them carefully. Don't treat them carefully. If you have to treat them carefully, they're not sealed. That's a false seal. See, I'm going to shake this one. I'm going to rough it up a little bit. And it's holding. I'll mention it looked like there might be a little bit of debris underneath, not underneath, but around the edge of the lid. And I don't know if that's because this is, I don't know if that's because this is broth and there was a little bit of fat on the top, or if it's something seeping from the lid. In any case, it's a tiny bit, and it came right off. So, this is sealed. I mean, it's just sealed. There's nothing I can say. I don't know how you can want any more than that. Okay, I said I would show you the insignia. If you look at this package of lids, on the bottom right, you'll see a BPA-free insignia with a little green leaf on it. If you have bought ForJars lids and your package does not have that little green leaf on it, it's from an early run of the lids. And as I said, I bought some, I used them, they sealed just fine. But if you want to make sure that you've got the latest version of these jars, order directly from the company, and I'm going to put the link in the info section. And I'll say again, just so you're clear, I bought a box of these lids. The company asked me to wait and use replacement lids. They sent me replacement lids. So my review is not based on getting anything free. I bought the lids, and I'll tell you, I recommend you buy them too. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope to see you again tomorrow on Debbie's Back Porch.